Good morning, and thank you for joining today. On the call, we have Governor Tim Walz, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, Speaker Melissa Hortman, Senate Minority Leader Susan Kent, and House Majority Leader Ryan Winkler. We will have brief remarks from all of our speakers before opening things up for question and answer. And when we get to question and answer, we would just ask that each media outlet limit themselves to one question each with a single on-topic follow-up. And with that, I'll hand it over to Governor Tim Walz.
Thank you, Teddy. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us in what is a very unusual end to the legislative session press brief. There's no flying around the state or pitching who won and who didn't. I think in the time of COVID-19, we know that much of that has changed. Unfortunately, the session did not end with everything we would have liked to see, or we still continue to work to get done. But I do think it is worth noting much was accomplished. And I want to make a special thank you to the folks on this call, to Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, of course, Speaker Hortman, and Majority Leader Winkler in the House, and Minority Leader Kent. These folks worked incredibly hard, all with an unprecedented situation of COVID-19, but always in what was in the best interest of maintaining Minnesotans' health, safety, and well-being. So I am grateful to all of them, and you will hear from them today. During this session, together, we have taken steps that hadn't been asked of leaders in the state before, and we did it together. Together, this group helped put together and allocated $200 million to the state's COVID-19 fund, which has been used to save lives. Our testing capacity has increased exponentially. We've ensured that we have enough hospital beds and ventilators for every single Minnesotan should they need it during this pandemic. And we have made great inroads into establishing new supply chains for purchasing much needed personal protective equipment. We have prepared and stood up alternate care facilities and instrumented plans to protect our long-term care facilities, all of this while working together. So I want to thank the legislature for that work of getting us ready. And we haven't forgot the other priorities across the state. I know there was a lot that did not happen. That takes collaboration. That takes it takes bipartisan and bicameral cooperation. So we know we have work to do, but there are some things in here that I think are worth noting, and I'm proud of the work that we did together. Again, raising the age of Minnesotans to purchase tobacco products happened this session. That has been something that we've worked on for years. That includes tobacco products, electronic delivery devices, and other nicotine products to 21. It's a really strong step. We know that we can reduce addictions to this. We know that the plan in many of these cases is for these companies to get new consumers when they're young. If we can get them past that 21, they can make their own choices in a well-informed time then, and I'm just grateful that we were able to do this. Also focusing on the health, we became the first state in the nation to ban TCE, trichloroethylene, hazardous chemical known increased risks of cancer. This is a big deal. Bill provides a process for small businesses to apply up to $25,000 in zero-interest loans to transition away from TCE. We know that this is a chemical that's used mainly for cleaning metal parts. We need to make sure that there's other alternatives, and we help businesses transition to that. Again, smart move, protecting Minnesotans. I'm really grateful. And also we work to protect our seniors from financial fraud. They expanded the authority under the 2018 Safe Seniors Financial Protection Act. Our seniors are vulnerable. They're especially vulnerable now for fraud during this time of COVID-19. We hear heartbreaking stories. This piece of legislation helps, along with the great work the Attorney General's office is doing to protect people from this type of fraud. And again, there's the folks on this call have worked on this for a very, very long time. They came together, worked with advocates, and moved the Alex Smith Insulin Affordability Act. This is just to make sure that no Minnesotan should have to choose between paying rent, buying groceries, or getting life-saving insulin. There's absolutely no excuse why those prices go out the roof. And there was a lot of resistance from the pharmaceutical industry, but I'll tell you, the grit of these folks on the call and the advocates who had lost loved ones fought and turned this around. So that is a positive. There's a lot of things that we should have done. I started along with the Lieutenant Governor last year to start traveling the state, probably unprecedented amount of going out and meeting with governors and businesses and city councils and legislators and county commissioners. And we listened to them, and we put forward a very detailed and thoughtful local jobs and project bill. I traveled down into the sewers under Minneapolis to see what was there. I traveled to Fergus Falls and walked through buildings and libraries and all of the things that make our community strong. We put that thing out in a detailed list in February, and nothing was done. We get a House bill that worked incredibly hard. Mary Murphy and the Speaker and the leader worked hard. We debated these. We had them out there. They were vetted. We know that we are at historically low interest rates. We know that this is a stimulus that can get things done. It has always been incredibly bipartisan. And unfortunately, this time, the choice was to tie it to our pandemic response. And those reporters on this phone call know that you could count on one hand the number of times that I ever talk about the partisanship around getting things done. But my disappointment that the bonding bill apparently became victim to an unrelated demand simply isn't the way to get this done. And I'm gonna go back at it again. I will do my best to make the case, but I just want to be clear, and I hope Minnesotans are clear about this. This was the better part of 6 months worth of work or longer, with very detailed, with inviting the media, with a scrutiny on this to get this done, and the courtesy to at least go through that, the courtesy to tell us why we shouldn't do that when every single economist and apparently almost every legislator is saying we should have done it, and the House had it ready to go, and we simply couldn't get it done. So it's a shame, but I will not give up. We go around roadblocks. We figure out ways to get there. We've been on the phone bipartisanly, continuing to try and work this out, and we will continue to do that. And I think problem solving with this folks on the phone and doing what's right for Minnesotans is a hallmark. It's something I'm proud of in our administration, a can-do, no-drama type of attitude. And my partner in doing that is there every step of the way, although we're not getting to see each other in the same place. We're on the phone most of the day and working with advocates. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan.
Thank you so much, Governor, and good morning, everyone. The governor's right. While there are some initiatives that Minnesotans can be proud of this session, there is still a lot of work to be done. Before this pandemic hit our state, the governor and I spent time listening to Minnesotans all across the state in every region and all four corners. We listened to their fears and to their hopes and to their ideas for improving life in our state. And from that listening, we developed a set of proposals to help make life in Minnesota even better, to lift up our communities that too often go unheard, and to bring relief to those who too often are forgotten. And while I'm proud of the progress that we made in 2020, my heart hurts because many of the initiatives and proposals that we fought for didn't come to fruition this year. We fought for the Child Care Assistance Program, which serves 15,000 families and 30,000 children per month. Our state's reimbursement rate for child care hasn't increased since 2014, over 5 years ago, and we are out of federal compliance. Our state's families are hurting, and we need to find a solution for child care. Additionally, we fought for the Minnesota Family Investment Program, or MFIP, which helps low-income families across the state meet their basic needs. We proposed emergency assistance payments of up to $500 per family of one-time money to help address significant challenges faced during the COVID-19 pandemic. This money goes to pay for things like food, diapers, and rent. We also sought funding to end veteran homelessness and suicide, bring justice for victims of sexual assault with funding for storing, tracking, and testing rape kits, and provide housing assistance for folks who are in crisis to low-income renters and homeowners. These proposals would have changed the trajectory for so many families across the state who are struggling to get by. We couldn't move these initiatives forward this session, but to all of those across the state who shared their challenges, their fears, their hopes with us, I promise you, we see you, we hear you, and we will not stop fighting for you. Thank you. And now I will turn it over to Speaker Melissa Hortman.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. The 2020 session will really be remembered as the pandemic session. We worked really well across party lines to address COVID-19 in the first 5 or 6 weeks, passing 5 major bills, investing in public health, hospitals, and other healthcare providers. We also helped child care providers. We made assistance available for small businesses. We helped folks with food and housing, and we provided assistance for farmers. But there was a moment where that bipartisan work kind of fizzled, and there is some work that we still have left to do. The really positive things that came out of the session include the Alex Smith Insulin Affordability Act. I think it was a really important thing that the majority changed. That is a bill that would not have gotten done without DFL majority in the Minnesota House of Representatives. We also passed the Prescription Drug Price Transparency Act, Tobacco 21, and did a considerable amount of work on election safety and security, making a bipartisan breakthrough in an issue that had been stuck for a long time. At the same time, we moved from being an in-person legislature to a fully online and remote functioning legislature in a very short period of time, faster than the U.S. Congress and faster than most legislatures around the country. Our work really continues. It's not done. The pandemic kind of reached in and grabbed the heart of the legislative session out. The 5 busiest weeks were the 5 weeks that we were out and getting up and online. So while we did some really good work to address COVID-19, the regular work of this session, the bonding bill, didn't get done in time. So we have more work to do there. DFLers are really committed to working to build a better future for all Minnesotans, not just during this pandemic, but into the future. And we passed a fantastic package to provide Minnesotans with more economic security. We focus on housing assistance, support for low-income working families with children, a temporary wage increase for personal care attendants, investing in broadband, and then more help for small businesses. Unfortunately, we couldn't get that economic security package through the Minnesota Senate. And in the Minnesota House, the House Republicans stood in the way of the local projects bill. There's so many jobs that will be created when we do pass the bonding bill. It's my hope that we'll be able to find a way to get the House GOP on board to get that bill through in June. The Minnesota House DFL has always and will always fight for all Minnesotans. That hasn't changed during this pandemic, and we'll keep working to ensure the health and economic security of Minnesotans now and into the future. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Minority Leader Susan Kent, my partner in the Senate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for your partnership through all of this. Good morning, everyone. I want to start by thanking Governor Walz, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, Speaker Hortman, and Majority Leader Winkler for their hard work, partnership, and dedication to building a better future for the people of Minnesota. This session, the Senate DFL advocated for legislation that reflected Minnesotans' priorities and values, and we worked really hard to ensure the passage of critical measures such as the emergency and long-term insulin program, secure elections, and vital funds and policies for the response to COVID-19. And we're grateful that we were able to accomplish a great deal on a bipartisan basis. As Lieutenant Governor Flanagan reflected, it's always important to remember that the COVID-19 pandemic has laid bare deeply rooted inequalities in our communities and the need for essential services to help Minnesotans weather economic storms such as the one that we are in. That's why the Senate DFL fought hard to pass measures that would have ensured the economic security of Minnesotans across the state, and we have remained committed to working with our Republican colleagues to find solutions wherever we can. We are disappointed that we weren't able to reach agreement on measures such as family and sick leave, emergency support for Minnesota families, ensuring school hourly employee compensation, and fully ratifying the hard-earned contracts that had already been negotiated in good faith with the state frontline workers who have stepped up in so many ways to help Minnesotans in these past few weeks. And as we look ahead to what's next, we will stay focused on legislation that is at the core of caring for Minnesotans. As Senate DFLers, we are disappointed that we weren't able to engage with Republican legislators on the bonding bill until the day before adjournment. As we expressed privately and publicly, we were concerned that delays would jeopardize our chance to pass a good, well-crafted local projects bill. We are ready to return to those discussions right away to work together on a robust bonding bill that will create good local jobs during a time when economic stimulus is needed more than ever. Minnesotans want the opportunity to build a good life and a better future for their families, and they expect their elected officials to reflect their priorities, protect their well-being, and advocate for their best interests. While we remained hopeful that we could get more before adjourning, today the Senate DFL is as committed as ever to building a future that reflects our shared values and cares for all Minnesotans. And as Governor Walz said, this is about problem solving. And I look forward to collaborating and continuing this work in the coming days and weeks. And with that, I will turn it over to Majority Leader Ryan Winkler.
Good morning. COVID-19 and the economic consequences of COVID-19 are a shock to the health and well-being of Minnesotans. Thus far through this pandemic, Minnesota's state government has performed extremely well in response. First and foremost, through the professionals at the Minnesota Department of Health, the University of Minnesota, Mayo Clinic, and our healthcare institutions around the state, Minnesota was as well prepared as we could be for a pandemic response. Through the leadership of Governor Walz, we have made sure that the resources of state government are deployed as efficiently and fairly as possible around Minnesota, and that we're taking cautious and responsible steps to close down parts of our economy and make sure that Minnesotans are safe at home for as long as they can possibly be. The legislature also stepped up to make sure that the administration had resources and funding and authority to take necessary actions to protect the lives and health of Minnesotans. Our round one response met the need. The question is whether our round two response will meet the financial problems facing Minnesota and the deep inequities in the way that this disease has affected so many people. So the question before us is whether our political system in Minnesota can rally, come together again as it did for a few weeks this session, and begin to address the long-term economic consequences and health consequences of COVID-19. What we've seen in the waning days of the legislative session can't continue. We need to make sure that Republicans come to the table and help us look out for the economic well-being of Minnesotans and join us in making sure that our state government is able to respond rather than demand that it disarm in the face of this pandemic. We think the Republicans will join us. We think we have every opportunity to do the right thing for Minnesota this summer, but it will be another gut check for Minnesota. And with that, I think the governor is going to take questions.
Thank you, Leader Winkler, and thank you to all of these dedicated officials. I really appreciate both during the session and now. You were up till 3 a.m. or later. You poured everything into this and listened to your constituents. And it would be very understandable, I think, to be very dejected today. But your spirit of collaboration, your spirit of can-do, your rejection of a toxic national political environment that does no good for the people of Minnesota is something that I admire, and I draw strength from all of you, and I appreciate that. And before we take questions, I'd also like to acknowledge the difficulty of our news media and journalists to cover this session, the furloughs and layoffs of longtime professionals who stood alongside you as we covered these things. Nobody is escaping the impact of COVID-19, including our free press, who ensures that the workings of the Capitol are as transparent as possible, and they are conveyed in a factual manner to the people of Minnesota so that they can decide. So with that, I would open up to the press and take questions.
Operator, we're ready for questions.
Thank you, presenters. As a reminder, everyone, if you wish to ask a question, please press star and then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. If you wish to withdraw your question, please press the pound key. We will pause for just a moment to compile the Q&A roster. Your first question comes from the line of Esme Murphy from WCCO TV. Ms. Murphy, your line is open. You may ask your question.
Thank you so much, Governor and leaders, for taking my question. I guess my question is goes to the governor. Governor, you mentioned that there was a demand that basically sidelined the bonding bill there at the end. Can you elaborate on exactly the nature of that demand, what it was in your view, and what's to prevent that from sidelining it again in just 3 weeks?
Well, thanks, Esme. In response to your second question, it's nothing. In a democracy and the way that the bonding bill is set up, where it takes the closer to supermajority, you need to have bipartisan support. That did not happen, so there's nothing to stop it from happening. I think, unfortunately, about 2 weeks ago, the tone was set tying the belief that that my emergency powers in our administration to combat COVID-19, the very same powers that were granted by the legislature and have been exercised by governors throughout Minnesota's history, were viewed as something that was not acceptable. So the moves we made to stand up the testing regime, or buy the personal protective equipment, or build the alternative care facilities, or issue stay-at-home orders, was held over that all of those things would have to be let loose before decisions were made about projects that benefit all Minnesotans. That has been one of the most bipartisan things in Minnesota's electoral history or policy history. So I think once that came down, it became much more difficult, and it was difficult to get back off the ledge, because my top priority is the protection of Minnesotans, and these powers that were granted by the legislative process have allowed us to do just exactly that. So, but nothing's to stop that from not happening again, other than I think Minnesotans are asking us to work together. They've been very clear. They're not interested in the partisanship on this, and they're interested in making sure that all voices are heard. So that's the intention of our administration, and I think I would speak for the legislators on this call. They have made that clear the entire time. That's their goal.
As a follow-up, is it fair to say you were very close? It appears that Minority Leader Kurt Doudt was talking about a $1.1 to $1.3 billion bonding bill that he could support. Were you close, and are you close?
Well, I'm going to I think I'll let the leaders weigh in on that. What I would say is that this group continued to work. I would say that we were negotiating good faith. I do think the Senate was working in good faith. I think Leader Kent's ability to work with Leader Gazelka was apparent, because there was movement, and Speaker Hortman is usually at the center of bringing all these together. And I'll let them say I believe we could have got it done. It's always our intention to do that. I think I have proven, and the folks on the call have proven, we're willing to negotiate and change our positions in the good of Minnesota. But this was kind of an all or nothing type of thing on the emergency powers, and that's a very difficult position. So maybe start out with Speaker Hortman.
Yeah, in negotiations, Representative Doudt never expressed a willingness to do a bonding bill. He has certain unmet conditions, and so definitely the majority leader in the Senate has spoken extensively about his desire to do a bill in the 1.3 range, but Leader Doudt has largely not engaged in the bonding conversation because his unspecified demands on other unrelated topics have not been met.
And Esme, this is Susan Kent, and I would add that it was slightly different in the Senate. As you've heard, Senator Gazelka was very clear, and there have been good discussions about wanting to have a robust bonding bill at a robust level. But the problem was that you can't just talk about it in the broad strokes. A bonding bill is a complex, big list of important local projects, and we didn't see the Senate Republicans' bill until the day before adjournment. And when we saw it, it was much smaller than the numbers that had been discussed, which if that had happened a few days earlier, maybe that would have worked out okay. But slapping together, a big bonding bill at the last minute, and one that does not cover the entire state adequately and fairly, and does not do what we need it to do in terms of delivering jobs and important projects for Minnesotans, it did not measure up to what we need to do in this time. And so I really hope that we can, at a detailed level, because there is it's more than just talking about a number. There's a real collection of facts and information that go into this that have to be worked through, and you can't just do that overnight.
Thank you.
Your next question comes from the line of Kevin Federle, Minnesota lawyer from Garnet. Mr. Federle, your line is open. Please ask your question.
Thank you. I have you on speakerphone. Can you hear me sufficiently, or should I pick up?
You're good. Kevin, that's perfect. Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to ask two interrelated questions on COVID and the law. Governor Walz, the public safety bill didn't pass. It had the commissioner's power to extend his authority to release people. I think it was out to 6 months. That didn't happen. I wonder if you are still interested in an executive order, if you're thinking of issuing that, or if you're going to work on that going forward. The other question, if you don't mind me asking a second, is on the lawsuit by the Attorney General against the resort owner who, sort of seems to present a fairly sympathetic figure. Are you worried about that lawsuit? He seems to be determined to take that all the way to the Supreme Court. If you don't mind those two questions, I'd like to ask those.
Sure, I think on the question of some of the releases, we've been very thoughtful on that. The ability to be able to release folks as they're coming near to the end of their sentence on health-related issues or other things has always been there. We sought to make sure that we had things in place that it would make sense if folks are going to get out anyway, to extend that out to make sense. And, of course, going through all the things we always do, making sure they're a low risk of reoffending. So I think I would like to continue. We'll have the opportunity to continue to look at all options. I'd like to work with the legislature on it. I don't really quite understand why this one would be all that controversial, that we could find some compromise, but we certainly keep that open because this is about the safety of those that work in our correctional facilities, those that are incarcerated and under our responsibility, and they're also a public health issue on this as we're going to be releasing folks anyway at some point in time. And as far as the Attorney General, I'll certainly let the Attorney General speak for that. What we've asked people to do is to honor these things. There's certainly, I would argue, a whole lot of sympathetic business owners who have been put in a terrible position by COVID-19. And it's not a decision that any of us take lightly. It's simply decisions based on the best public health guidance that is being replicated across the country. And in most cases is the guidance that the White House and the CDC put out to us. So I don't think it's a matter of that we don't think people have a reason to be upset. The fact of the matter is these are lawful orders, and public order and public safety is dependent on people being able to follow them. Now, our hope is most people follow them out of the social need to help one another. But when people blatantly say they're not going to follow the law, whether it's traffic violation or whether it's public safety issue, you have to follow through with those. And I think the Attorney General is simply stating the case of where they can go. Now, I would argue that I certainly respect the rights of these business owners if they choose to take them to court. And as the courts rule, and if it goes to the Supreme Court to be determined, we certainly will honor how that turns out. But I think by looking at it, it just makes sense that if you're a business owner, we want to make sure that when we open up again, you stay open. We want to make sure you're not put in a position where people are getting sick in your premises, and that we've simply created a pathway that we'll talk about Wednesday to see how do we do that in an orderly manner in the very near future. So I think that will play itself out the way it should.
Very quick follow-up. Back in March, you said that you were considering potentially an executive order on the release issue if the legislature didn't act. It really sort of seems like you've retired that issue, that you're no longer considering executive authority on that issue. Am I right about that?
Well, I think we would still hold that. Again, I would hear what I hear from corrections. I think a very good job has been done on the authority that the commissioner has. Commissioner Snell has done a wonderful job of, I think, trying to prioritize. We know that corrections institutions are hotbeds of COVID-19 across the country. I certainly wouldn't close the door on anything if it makes sense for both public safety, public health, and it's the right thing to do. That would be something we would look at. But again, like so many of these things, we don't choose to go the executive order route. Sometimes it's the sense of how quickly it takes. And this is kind of one of those examples. We thought we could certainly get some legislative approval on many of these things, and we want to do it that way. But if they don't act and all of a sudden cases start to spike dramatically at our corrections institutions, we may have to act. So the legislature did not give us the tool to act should that happen. And I don't know yet where that'll be. Our hope is, and the data that we're looking at doesn't necessarily predict that, but as we've seen in places like Illinois, you can lose the handle on a correctional facility very quickly. So I certainly think we need to reserve that right if it's in the best interest of health.
Thank you.
Your next question comes from the line of Jesse Van Berkel from Star Tribune. Ms. Berkel, please ask your question.
Thank you. Hi, Governor. I wanted to ask about the state workers' contracts ratification process. I was wondering if you could provide any details about what your administration's view is on whether the Senate vote essentially amounts to full approval of the contracts with raises, and what's next for that ratification process.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. This is another one of those areas that's disappointing. I think people are following this. We negotiated in good faith. A lot of these folks are on the front line of this. They're a well-qualified workforce, and they add much to Minnesota. As it came into the COVID-19 and some of the discussions around this, I'm still analyzing and asking our attorneys to analyze where this was at. I have asked Myron Franz to join us today, of course, who negotiates for the administration, to maybe give you a little bit better insight, Jesse, on where we're at. So, Myron, if you're on.
Sure. Thank you, Governor. Yeah, so the collective bargaining process is clearly established in law, and it's something that we've followed for many, many years. The executive branch, as you know, negotiates the agreements with representatives from the state employee bargaining units. And those agreements then are submitted to the legislature for ratification or rejection. So the situation we have is on May 11th, the House voted to ratify the agreements as negotiated. And then on May 17th, the Senate voted to ratify the agreements and propose modification to the terms. Now, under the law, the legislature does not have the authority to modify collective bargaining agreements. So MMB is now reviewing the actions taken by the Senate, and we're analyzing the legal effect as it relates to ratification of these labor contracts. We hope to issue our decision after we complete our review very quickly.
Thanks, Commissioner. And just a reminder to everyone on the call, especially our speakers, just go ahead and make sure you're on mute. I'm hearing a little bit of feedback. Thank you, everybody.
Your next question comes from the line of Theo Keith from Fox 9. Mr. Keith, your line is open. Please ask your question.
Hello. I actually want to follow up on where Commissioner Franz took that last answer. And so this one's going to be both for Commissioner Franz and Governor Walz. Commissioner, how quickly do you think you'll have that review done and are able to issue that guidance? And then, Governor, in the meantime, what is your administration going to do? What do you want? Do you want the contracts to be renegotiated so that they're in a place to potentially pick them up on the June 12th special session?
I would answer first, Myron, if you could. Yeah, I think, Theo, that for me to determine that, I'm going to have to see where Myron gets to. I think our position was clear that these were negotiated in good faith. I believe always that when you do collective bargaining, there's a responsibility that both sides are heard on that. And I think it will be determined on where they come out. I can't really speculate at this time because they're pretty diametrically opposed, I think, results that could come out of this, either the way I view it, and I think I'll let Myron speak in more detail, either the contracts are ratified or they're not. There is no gray area in between, and I think that's simply what I'm waiting for.
Yeah, thank you, Governor. I think that's the key. Is this is the action taken by the Senate. It's not contemplated by the statute. It is a rejection, either a ratification or non-ratification, or acceptance or rejection. So the addition of the modification language is really a case of first impression. So we've been working really nonstop since that action was taken, and we hope to finish our conclusion and review within a matter of a day or so. We're not going to be done today, I know, but we're going to try to get it out as soon as we possibly can.
Thank you.
Your next question comes from the line of Dave Orris from Pioneer Press. Mr. Orris, your line is open. Please ask your question.
Thank you. Governor, Majority Leader Gazelka said that you called members of the Senate last night and told them to vote no on the bonding bill. True or false?
That's absolutely true. I called them because that bill, as Senator Kent said, was never vetted. It wasn't unlaid. One of the things I was deeply disappointed about was the state's emergency operations center, which everyone has seen is totally inadequate. It's been overwhelmed. This has been being pushed for a better part of a decade. Wasn't even included. There were partisan earmarked projects in this, and that is not what we did. And I asked them if they wanted to do a bonding bill, why not do it the way I did? Totally open to the public, totally transparent, totally vetted with supporters across the state. So when I heard that there was some thought that they were trying to do that, that is the most basic of politics and policy that I went out and made my case why they shouldn't vote for them. And they didn't, because it's not a good bill. And so that is absolutely true.
And Minority Leader Kent, where did you stand on that, and how did it come to pass that the governor was picking up the phone and making calls to your members?
So it came to pass. We, as a caucus, talked about the fact that we knew that this was an important opportunity to have a bill that was good for Minnesota, that there were important projects that needed to be done. And again, it had to do with the timing of it, that they came forward with a bill that was far below what had been discussed at that late hour. It had not been vetted, as we've discussed, was really problematic. And the governor is free to call legislators. He does it on a regular basis. We call him. It happens. And so that's where that stands.
Okay, thanks.
Your next question comes from the line of Peter Flanagan from Minnesota Post. Mr. Flanagan, your line is open. You may ask your question.
Thank you. Hi, Governor. First-time caller here, so be gentle. The housing, we got a whole lot of housing bill about 10 o'clock last night, and there was all sorts of stuff in it. There's definitely stuff in it that you and DFLers would like. The rental assistance money was at your level. There was no attempt to cut off the eviction ban, $100 million in housing infrastructure bonds, and even some of the regulatory things are things that DFLers like. So is that anywhere close to something that you think could be negotiated? Are you okay with combining the construction regulation issue with those funding issues?
Well, certainly the housing is of critical importance. Again, I don't want to dwell on, because we're still going to get this stuff done, but that was a disappointment. And I do believe there's an awful lot of bipartisan support around the issue of housing pre-COVID-19 and certainly post-COVID-19. But one of the problems is you're always going to get this, this last-minute haggling. It was virtually impossible. I mean, that's not even a pun with the virtual side. We weren't in the room looking straight together. I was getting these things as quickly as possible with a very talented staff, but I think it was very difficult. But on this one, we share the work burden amongst ourselves. Lieutenant Governor Flanagan has been a leader in this area. I think I'll let her maybe respond to where we're at or what our path forward is.
Sure. Thanks, Governor. And I think, that's exactly right. We are grateful that folks were coming to the table with solutions and with offers, but frankly, much of it just came too late. We weren't in a housing crisis before the pandemic hit. I think there is certainly energy from folks on both sides of the aisle to move stuff with housing infrastructure bonds, as well as the Housing Assistance Fund, which is really critical as we're asking people to stay safe and stay home. I'm hopeful that we can come to a solution, but unfortunately the back and forth just didn't come in time. But this is clearly continues to be a top priority for our administration and for the other folks on this call.
Okay, and just a really, really quick follow-up. June 12, before then, everyone's been saying June 12. Is that the day?
Well, at this point, and again, I work with the legislators on both sides, but I'm prioritizing safety of Minnesotans. This pandemic thing really, while we're looking out over the horizon, long-term planning, it's day to day. If it's determined coming back for a special session is the right thing to do, I think the June 12th date keeps coming up because that is the emergency declaration for emergency powers. And I would note on this that that is a case of that I think the legislators, and in a bipartisan manner, have every right, and I think this group would attest to it, that we're working together. We chose to take a very conservative interpretation of a statute that is very vague about the extension of emergency powers, that it does not call for the legislature to come back in and do that. I've asked for that. So I think at this point in time, it's just a take it as it is. And I don't know, Speaker or Leader, if you want to talk about special session on this. We certainly will talk to all of you, and this will not be an arbitrary decision made by us.
Well, Governor, the emergency certainly doesn't seem like it's imminently going to be over, and so I guess this is something we're all going to be talking about and looking at in the coming weeks. But there's definitely work for us left to do this year. We can have a special session anytime, whether the governor decides to extend his emergency powers beyond June 12th and or not. We can keep working on the unfinished business of this session. We have come together before for a brief special session to get things done, and that can always happen when we have a deal. So that's, there's really two things going on here. One is the extension of the emergency powers, and the facts and the pandemic will dictate that. And the second thing is what is the work that we can get done together, and that's on all of us to be willing to come together to reach agreements.
Okay, thanks.
Your next question comes from the line of Steve Karnowski from Associated Press. Please ask your question.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for taking my question here. I think this is probably directed mostly at Speaker Hortman, Leader Winkler, and Leader Kemp. Senator Gazelka, in his call earlier, indicated that he thought one of the problems was just the fact that because everybody was dispersed for this, you didn't have the pressure from lobbyists, from constituents, from the media about where you stood at things. He indicated that took out some of the urgency and is one of the reasons why some of these problems didn't get solved before adjournment. Your thoughts on that?
Apparently his telephone number and email are unpublished, because I heard from the public and I heard from lobbyists. No, you look at the legislative session from 2015 to now, and I think every single one of those years there's been a special session to finish the work of the legislature. So I think what we're really seeing over a probably 10-year or more pattern is we have a legislature functioning in an 1857 construct in a society that has now 5.5 million people and a nearly $50 billion budget. And each year the tasks before us are larger than they were the year before, and we haven't made any significant changes to the legislative calendar since the early 1970s. Then you throw on top of that a pandemic. I really think that the pandemic actually didn't set back the regular work of this session. I think it was an unwillingness of certain individuals to collaborate and find a way to say yes. But that has happened nearly every year since 2015, so that's not anything that's new in particular. I don't actually think the virtual nature really affected the communications level. I felt that the governor was fully engaged with the legislative leaders, since before the pandemic, since before the session even started. And Senator Gazelka and Representative Dowd and I were really in constant contact. During the legislative session, I see and talk to those gentlemen by Zoom and cell phone more than I see and talk to my husband. So I don't think there was any shortage of communication.
This is Susan Kent. I would agree that, the communications before everything changed for COVID-19 was excellent, and we continued that within this group. I will say there were sort of logistical, mechanical things that did slow down how long it took to process bills, that kind of thing. And, we just needed to make sure we were building that into our timelines, which is perfectly reasonable for us to do. I agree completely with the speaker. You know, I have heard, and I think it was the nature of the pandemic. We heard from constituents in many ways even more. You know, people were having a rough time and dealing with really hard things. And I heard from a lot of Minnesotans around the country on a lot of these, around the state on a lot of these issues. And so I'm not sure why Senator Gazelka thinks that we weren't hearing from people and getting that kind of pressure.
Operator, we have time for one more question today.
Thank you, sir. Your next question comes from the line of Joe Mathen from APG of East Central. Please ask your question. Mr. Joe Mathen, your line is open. Please ask your question.
This question involves, thank you. This question involves paying thousands of high school students who have been laid off their jobs. Thousands of high school students work in Minnesota. Many of them depend on those earnings to help support their families and to help pay for upcoming college and university costs. Federal law recently adopted allows federal funds to be used to pay high school students workers' comp, but Minnesota appears to be one of the few, if any, states that does not allow this. A number of Minnesota students have asked for your help. Bills were introduced. Do you see this as a possible priority for a special session?
Yeah, hi, Joe. And I think you're talking UI, not workman's comp on this issue. But
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, we have been discussing this, and I don't have Commissioner Grove on the call today, but this one has been being brought up once the regulations changed on how do we make that happen. I don't know, Speaker or Leader Kent, if you want to talk about it, but we're certainly think this is one that should be explored and see if there's something we can do.
Yeah, Representative Mahoney is taking the lead for our caucus on this, and I know I forwarded some emails from some high school students to Representative Mahoney and asked if there's a way we can help out, and I know that they're working on it.
How about the Senate?
I would say that we are absolutely open to collaborating and trying to come up to some solutions, because you're right, you're exactly right. We did do a couple of things to make sure that 16 and 17-year-olds could participate in some workplaces that had not been allowed, and that was a part of it. But in this case, we're absolutely ready to collaborate.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. It's a good question too, and I think I would note is that what we recognize too is there's many of these young people are supporting families too, and supporting their own family to help out in a time of crisis. And then there's others, and I've got one in my household, a 19-year-old college student that she's responsible for a portion of her tuition and costs, and this starts to have a cascading ripple effect. So I think all of us are very sensitive to this, and I think today I would simply close by Minnesotans and this session proved that Minnesotans want us to work together. They want us to find solutions. They know this is not an either or. This is not about personal liberties versus health safety. It's about striking the proper balance of public safety, community good, while making sure we maintain all of the other functions that make life worth living, and that certainly includes other health issues. It includes economic security, and it includes the well-being that we get from doing those activities we enjoy doing. And so I think Minnesota has taken an approach to this that we accomplished much in the early fight of this pandemic. I think many of us wish we could have started in January, but it didn't happen that way. But the time that we bought has allowed us that. And I think these issues that keep coming up are going to demand that we do work together. We don't try and find a partisan position. We let those things set aside based on the facts, the science, and the well-being of Minnesotans. So we've got more work to do, as each of these leaders have said. I am proud to have worked with each of them. I get to witness every day the long hours and the texts and the phone calls that come after midnight, many nights. These are folks to be proud of, and the legislature is a place where ideas are debated, where compromise are reached, and we have to keep at it. So I want to thank all the press again for the way they covered this, and we will be back with you again, I'm sure, tomorrow.